This flight was not in trouble. Not yet. But in just 20 minutes, everything would quietly fall apart.
Colgan Air Flight 34007 was descending toward Buffalo, New York, after a routine evening flight from New Jersey.
The aircraft was a Bombardier-8 Q400, modern, certified and flown safely thousands of times before.
Inside the cabin, passengers were calm, tired, and expecting to land within minutes.
Up front, the autopilot was engaged, holding the aircraft steady during descent.
Weather reports showed light snow and icing conditions, common for Buffalo winters.
The plane's de-icing systems were turned on, exactly as procedures required.
Nothing in the cockpit suggested danger, urgency, or an emergency.
But unseen ice was slowly changing how the wings produced lift.
At this moment, Flight 3407 had less than 20 minutes remaining.
As the aircraft descended, airspeed slowly decreased, without triggering any immediate warning.
The autopilot remained engaged longer than recommended in icing conditions.
With autopilot on, the pilots could not feel how unstable the aircraft was becoming.
Ice accumulation increased drag and reduced lift across the wings.
The cockpit remained quiet, with no discussion of airspeed or icing risks.
Both pilots were experiencing severe fatigue, despite being legally cleared to fly.
Fatigue reduced reaction speed and narrowed decision-making ability.
As Flight 3407 descended below 10,000 feet, airspeed continued to fall.
No corrective action was taken, and no verbal call-outs were made.
The aircraft was now approaching the critical edge of a stall.
Air traffic control cleared Flight 3407 to continue its approach into Buffalo.
The runway was still several miles away, but landing felt routine.
Snow continued to fall lightly as the plane descended through the clouds.
The aircraft's speed dropped closer to its lower safe limit.
The autopilot compensated by raising the nose to maintain altitude.
This nose-up attitude further reduced the margin between safe flight and stall.
Inside the cockpit, no one verbalized the growing risk.
Ice continued to disrupt airflow, making the stall speed higher than normal.
The aircraft was now flying slower than the pilots realized.
The conditions for a stall were now fully in place.
As the aircraft continued descending, airspeed dropped to a critical threshold. At this point, even small changes in pitch could trigger a stall. Ice on the wings increased the stall speed beyond normal limits.
The autopilot worked harder to keep the aircraft stable.
Neither pilot disengaged the autopilot as conditions worsened.
Fatigue made subtle warnings easier to miss.
Flight 34007 passed through another layer of icing clouds.
The aircraft's aerodynamic margin continued to shrink.
At this moment, the plane was seconds away from its first major warning.
The system sensed the danger before the pilots did.
Without warning, the stick shaker suddenly activated.
This warning meant the aircraft was on the verge of stalling.
Standard training required an immediate nose-down response. Instead, the captain instinctively pulled back on the controls.
This action increased the angle of attack at the worst possible moment.
The aircraft entered a full aerodynamic stall.
The engines spooled up, but power came too late.
The nose rose higher, while the plane lost lift.
Altitude dropped rapidly, with almost no room for recovery.
The situation inside the cockpit became chaotic.
The aircraft rolled sharply to the left as lift collapsed.
Control inputs from the cockpit became uncoordinated and conflicting.
The first officer attempted to assist, but no clear command was established.
The aircraft continued descending in a stalled condition.
The nose briefly dropped, then pitched up again.
Each second reduced the remaining chance of recovery. The plane was now below 1,000 feet above the ground.
There was no time left to fully recover from this fall. Passengers had no warning of what was happening.
Flight 3407 was moments away from impact.
At 10:17 p.m., the aircraft struck a residential house in Clarence Center.
The impact caused an immediate explosion and fire.
All 49 people on board were killed instantly.
One person inside the house also lost their life.
The aircraft was completely destroyed on impact.
Emergency responders arrived within minutes.
Firefighters worked to contain the blaze and secure the area.
There were no survivors to rescue.
The quiet neighborhood was left devastated.
What began as a routine flight ended in sudden tragedy.
Within hours, federal investigators arrived at the crash site.
The National Transportation Safety Board took control of the investigation.
Debris was spread across a wide residential area.
Investigators began searching for the flight data and voice recorders.
Both recorders were recovered from the wreckage.
Data confirmed the aircraft was stalled at the time of impact.
Cockpit recordings revealed confusion during the final seconds.
Captain, some control intakes. Worsen the stall instead of correcting it.
Training procedures had not been properly followed.
Attention turned to pilot experience, fatigue, and oversight. Investigators confirmed both pilots were suffering from extreme fatigue.
The captain had limited experience flying the Q400 in icing conditions.
The first officer had earned her license but lacked strong stall recovery experience.
Fatigue reduced their ability to recognize and respond to danger.
Company training did not adequately prepare pilots for high-altitude stalls.
The captain reacted instinctively instead of following procedures.
Autopilot reliance prevented the pilots from sensing aerodynamic instability. The stall warning system functioned exactly as designed.
Human error, not mechanical failure, caused the crash.
The disaster exposed critical weaknesses in regional airline operations.
Public attention quickly focused on how regional airlines train their pilots.
Families of the victims demanded accountability and change.
The investigation highlighted low pay and long commutes for regional pilots. Fatigue was identified as a systemic risk, not an isolated issue.
Congress held hearings following the release of investigation findings.
Lawmakers questioned airline oversight and safety standards.
The FAA was pressured to strengthen pilot qualification rules.
The data supports the revised regulations.
New rules increased required flight hours for airline pilots. Stall recovery training was redesigned across the industry.
These changes aim to prevent another tragedy like Flight 3407. Flight 34007 became a turning point in U.S. aviation safety history.
Regional airlines were forced to rethink how pilots were trained.
Fatigue management became a critical focus for flight crews.
Airlines adjusted scheduling to reduce exhaustion risks. Stall warnings were re-emphasized as immediate action alerts.
Pilots were trained to trust procedures over instinct.
Modern crews now disconnect autopilot earlier in icing conditions.
Each lesson learned was written in the cost of human lives. The victims of Flight 34007 are remembered through safer skies. Their final 20 minutes changed aviation forever.
Every alarm on Flight 3407 worked exactly as it was designed.
The aircraft itself never malfunctioned or failed.
The disaster unfolded because human limits were reached.
No single mistake caused the crash. It was a chain of small decisions.
Each decision alone seemed harmless.
Together, they removed every margin of safety.
The final 20 minutes offered chances that went unnoticed. This is how aviation accidents usually happen, quietly.
Not with explosions, but with silence and routine.
Until suddenly, there is no time left.
Flight 3407 reminds investigators how quickly control can be lost.
It showed how fatigue weakens even trained professionals.
It revealed the danger of relying too heavily on automation.
Modern aviation now treats icing with greater caution.
Pilots today are trained to recognize stalls earlier.
These lessons were written into manuals and regulations.
They exist because 49 passengers never made it home.
And because one family lost someone on the ground.
Every safe landing today carries their legacy. This was the story of the final 20 minutes.
Aviation safety is built on lessons learned from past failures.
Each investigation adds another layer of protection for future flights.
Flight 3407 became one of those painful lessons. Its story is studied by pilots training today.
Not to assign blame, but to prevent repetition.
Because aviation learns by remembering. Every checklist exists because something once went wrong.
Every procedure is written in memory of real people.
The final 20 minutes are never forgotten.
They continue to shape how we fly today.
This accident did not begin with a single failure.
It began with routine decisions made during a routine flight.
Nothing seemed urgent until it was already too late.
That is how many aviation disasters unfold. Not with chaos at first, but with quiet normality.
Flight 3407 followed that same pattern.
"20 minutes was all it took to change everything."
Today, those minutes are remembered so others may be protected. Every passenger trusts the lessons learned from the past.
This was Flight 3407, 20 minutes before disaster.